There's a kind of power most men never learn to wield, the quiet, steady strength of silence. Not the silence of fear, not the silence of surrender, but the silence of discipline. The kind that doesn't beg, doesn't explain, doesn't chase, because it doesn't have to. When someone expects you to fight for their attention, to argue your worth, to fold under their absence, and you meet them instead with calm quiet, it unsettles them. It forces them to feel the absence of your energy. It forces them to face the reality that they don't control you anymore. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius didn't waste his words convincing others. His actions spoke for him. Epictetus taught that mastery over yourself is the only true freedom. And once you master yourself, silence becomes more than the absence of words. It becomes a statement. This video is about that statement. About the quiet confidence of a man who doesn't need to prove anything, who doesn't need to fight for a place he's already earned, who understands that the most powerful response is often no response at all. Because here's the truth. Silence, when it's rooted in discipline and self-respect, cuts deeper than any insult, any speech, any argument. It's the language of strength. If you're ready to stop explaining, stop chasing, and start moving with calm, unshakable power, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. I move in silence. I rise in power. Now let's begin. Number 1. Why silence speaks louder than words. Silence is misunderstood. Most people see it as weakness, as submission, as not knowing what to say. But in truth, silence is one of the most powerful tools a man can use, because it speaks without noise, and it speaks directly to the mind of the person who once thought they had control over you. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop reacting, when you stop defending your value, your quiet becomes deafening. It forces people to sit with their own thoughts, their own actions, their own regrets, and in that quiet, something happens. They realize the gravity of what they've lost. The Stoics knew this power well. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." When someone wrongs you, when someone disrespects you, the strongest response isn't anger. It's composure. It's showing them without a word that their chaos has no power over your peace. Psychologically, silence creates a vacuum. People are wired to crave closure, to resolve tension, and when you refuse to fill that silence with noise, they start to feel it. They replay the last conversation. They analyze your calm absence. They start to question themselves, not you. And here's the beauty. Your silence isn't about punishing them. It's about protecting you. It's about keeping your dignity intact, your emotions in check, and your focus where it belongs, on building, on growing, on rising. Because a man who knows the value of silence is a man who can never truly be shaken. Number 2. Emotional mastery through restraint. Silence only becomes powerful when it's backed by emotional mastery. Most men break their silence because they can't control the storm inside them. They want to explain, to argue, to be understood. But the moment you do that, you give away your power. You show that your emotions are in control of you instead of the other way around. The Stoics believed that the man who masters himself is the only man who is truly free. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That strength is what turns silence from passive to powerful. Psychologically, restraint changes the entire dynamic. When you don't react, when you don't rise to the bait, when you don't let their chaos drag you into a storm, you create what's known as psychological dissonance. They expect the old you, the one who begged, explained, or fought for attention. But when you stay calm, detached, and disciplined, they don't know how to respond. And here's the deeper truth. Silence isn't just about them. It's about you. Every time you choose to hold your ground instead of lashing out, you build discipline. You teach yourself that your peace matters more than their attention. That lesson, it compounds. It sharpens you. It transforms you into a man who doesn't just look calm, he is calm. Emotional mastery through restraint isn't easy. It requires patience, self-awareness, and discipline. But once you master it, your silence stops being quiet and starts becoming deafening. Number 3, the Stoic art of detachment. Detachment isn't about shutting down or pretending you don't care. It's about choosing to care in a way that doesn't cost you your peace. That's what makes it powerful, and what turns your silence into something that commands respect. The Stoics mastered this art. Epictetus taught, "When you are delighted with anything, remember that it is not your own." Not in a cold, unfeeling way, but as a reminder. Everything external is temporary: relationships, attention, even approval. And when you accept that, you stop clinging, you stop chasing, you stop bleeding energy into situations you can't control. Psychologically, detachment gives you clarity. It pulls you out of the emotional fog and lets you see things for what they are, not what you wish they could be. That clarity is why your silence becomes so powerful, because it isn't rooted in ego or games. It's rooted in calm, disciplined self-respect. And here's the paradox. The moment you detach is often the moment people lean in. Not because you begged, not because you manipulated, but because detachment creates gravity. People are drawn to what they can't easily control, and a man grounded in himself is nearly impossible to move. Detachment doesn't make you less human. It makes you more in control of your humanity. It keeps your emotions steady, your mind sharp, and your presence rare. And in a world where everyone is loud, reactive, and desperate to be heard, that kind of quiet composure is unforgettable. Number 4, creating space for respect. Respect isn't built through chasing, over-explaining, or demanding it. Respect is built through boundaries, and silence is one of the strongest boundaries you can set. When someone takes you for granted, when they think your attention is guaranteed, the most powerful response isn't noise, it's distance. It's creating space. That space forces them to sit with the absence of your energy, and in that absence, they're confronted with a reality they didn't expect, that you won't beg to be seen and you won't fight to be valued. Marcus Aurelius lived by this principle without ever putting it into words. He didn't need to argue for respect. His actions earned it. He remained grounded in his purpose, disciplined in his focus, and quiet in his power. And people noticed, not because he demanded their attention, but because he no longer needed it. Psychologically, creating space shifts the dynamic. It breaks the cycle of overinvestment and gives you back control, not over them, but over yourself. You stop reacting, and you start leading the interaction by simply stepping away. And here's the beauty. That space isn't punishment. It's clarity. It's telling yourself and them that your time, your energy, and your peace are valuable. And anything or anyone that doesn't honor that value doesn't get unlimited access to it. When you create space, you create respect. And the man who commands respect without asking for it is the man no one forgets. Number 5. Silence as emotional power. Silence isn't the absence of action, it's the highest form of emotional control. It says, without a single word, I don't need to argue, I don't need to prove, I don't need to chase. That quiet confidence is what makes silence so powerful. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion. There is never a need to get worked up or to trouble your soul. When you stay silent, you're not ignoring the situation. You're choosing not to let it control you. That choice is strength." Psychologically, silence creates what's called emotional dissonance. People expect you to react. They expect chaos, anger, noise. But when you meet that expectation with calm, steady silence, it unsettles them. It forces them to question themselves. This is why silence often hurts more than words. Words can be argued with, dismissed, or ignored. Silence lingers. Silence forces reflection. Silence says everything you need to say without lowering yourself to noise. And here's the beauty of it. Your silence isn't about controlling them. It's about controlling you. It's about choosing peace over pettiness, focus over drama, strength over impulse, because the man who knows when to be silent is the man who controls the room, even when he hasn't said a word. Number 6. When they feel the absence. Silence creates a void, and human nature hates a void. When you pull back, when you stop explaining, when you stop showing up for people who once counted on your constant attention, that absence becomes impossible to ignore. At first, they may not notice. They might even think your silence means nothing. But over time, the pattern they relied on, the texts, the calls, the validation, fades. And in its place, there's quiet. That quiet forces them to confront a truth they didn't expect. Your presence was valuable, and they never earned it. The Stoics taught that people only truly value what they can lose. Seneca wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." Your absence triggers that very process. Their imagination fills the silence with questions, with doubt, with the sting of realizing they no longer have access to what they once took for granted. Psychologically, this is powerful because it's authentic. You didn't play games. You didn't lash out. You simply removed yourself and chose peace. That shift is what makes your absence felt on a deeper level, because it's not about anger. It's about self-respect. And here's the paradox. By the time they feel that absence, you've already outgrown the need for their validation. Your silence was never about making them chase. It was about choosing yourself. The chase, if it comes, is just a side effect of the man you've become in that quiet. Number 7. Building yourself in the quiet. Silence isn't just absence, it's opportunity. The moment you stop pouring energy into noise, you create space. And that space, that's where transformation begins. The Stoics believed that solitude was the foundation of strength. Marcus Aurelius would retreat into his own thoughts, journaling and reflecting on his principles, even while leading an empire. He understood that a man who can master himself in the quiet becomes unstoppable in the world. Psychologically, silence is where healing happens. It's where your thoughts settle, where your focus sharpens, where your energy redirects toward building instead of chasing. Every gym session, every disciplined morning, every quiet night spent planning, learning, and growing, those moments compound, and over time, they create a version of you that the old you wouldn't even recognize. The beauty of building in the quiet is that it's for you, not for them. There's no performance, no audience, no need for applause. You're not proving anything, you're improving everything. And that shift, building for yourself, is what makes the progress so solid, so unshakable. And here's the paradox. While you're focused on your growth, the world notices. People feel the change in your presence, even if they can't explain it. But by then, you won't care who's watching, because the man who builds in the quiet builds for himself, and that's the only validation that truly matters. Number 8, the paradox of pulling back. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to be seen, you're noticed the most. When you pull back, not with anger, not with games, but with calm discipline, you shift the entire dynamic. People feel the absence of your energy, and that absence creates gravity. The Stoics didn't live for validation. Epictetus didn't need to shout his wisdom. Marcus Aurelius didn't beg for respect. They focused on their principles, their purpose, their growth. And in that quiet focus, they built a presence that couldn't be ignored. Psychologically, this works because humans are wired to chase what feels rare. When you stop pouring endless attention and energy into someone who stopped appreciating it, they're forced to confront a reality they never prepared for. Access to you is no longer guaranteed. But here's where most men get it wrong. They pull back for the wrong reasons. They want to trigger a reaction, to spark regret, to manipulate the situation. That isn't discipline, that's desperation in disguise. The real power comes when you pull back for yourself, because you've chosen your peace over their chaos, your growth over their games. And here's the beauty. By the time they come looking, you're no longer waiting. You've already moved forward, already grown past the version of yourself that needed their approval. That's the paradox of pulling back. The less you seek, the more they notice. But by then, you've built a life so full that their attention is nothing more than an afterthought. Number 9. Silence over revenge. The loudest mistake men make after being hurt is chasing revenge. They want to prove a point. They want to make someone feel the pain they felt. But the moment you seek revenge, you're still tethered to them, still letting their actions dictate your energy, your focus, your growth. The Stoics warned against this trap. Seneca wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." The man who rises quietly, who rebuilds without noise, who finds peace in his own discipline, is the man who wins, not because he proved them wrong, but because he no longer needs to. Psychologically, this is what true detachment looks like. Your silence stops being a tactic and becomes a way of life. You no longer burn energy trying to control how others see you or whether they regret losing you. Instead, you channel every ounce of that energy into your growth, your mission, your purpose. And here's the paradox: your quiet progress speaks louder than any outburst ever could. People notice when you've changed, not because you forced them to, but because strength has a presence that can't be hidden. Choosing silence over revenge doesn't make you passive, it makes you powerful. Because the man who doesn't need to retaliate is the man no one can control. Your silence says what your words never could. I'm free. Number 10. The calm strength of a Stoic man. True strength isn't loud. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand to be seen. True strength is quiet. It's the calm confidence of a man who knows his value, who chooses his peace, and who moves through the world with discipline and purpose. The Stoics embodied this. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet wrote in his journal about humility, restraint, and the importance of mastering his own mind. Epictetus lived as a slave before becoming a teacher of kings, not because of anger or noise, but because of the steady strength he carried within. Psychologically, this calm strength is rare, and that's what makes it magnetic. People can feel it in your silence, in your presence, in the way you no longer react to every storm around you. You don't chase, you don't cling, you don't need to prove anything to anyone, because you've already proven it to yourself. And here's the quiet truth. When you live this way, nothing outside of you can shake you. Not rejection, not silence, not loss. Because you've built your foundation on something deeper than validation. You've built it on discipline, purpose, and self-respect. That's the calm strength of a Stoic man, a man who moves in silence, lives with intention, and rises every single day, not to be seen, but simply because that's who he is. Silence isn't weakness. It isn't surrender. It's the choice of a man who values his peace more than validation, his growth more than attention, his discipline more than chaos. That's the quiet strength of Stoicism, the ability to stand firm without noise, to walk away without anger, and to let your silence say what your words never could. When you live this way, you stop being reactive, you stop chasing, you stop fighting battles that don't deserve your energy, and in that calm, you find something most men never do: freedom. So let your silence speak. Let your discipline do the talking. Let your calm confidence carry you forward, while the world wonders how you became untouchable. If you're ready to stop explaining and start moving in quiet, unshakable power, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. I move in silence. I rise in power. Thanks for watching Stoic Blessing, where men rise, rebuild, and become impossible to break.